Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, do that thing down below. I keep reading articles and seeing videos on YouTube about how you should not be doing adventure riding solo. And I've even been told in person by people that I shouldn't be riding or doing adventure riding solo, which is a bit of an irritation for me. So I want to talk about in this video how to solo ride, do solo riding and solo adventure riding, and how to keep it safe, how to minimize risk, and the things that you should be doing if you're solo riding and especially adventure riding. But my opinion is that if you keep within certain parameters, then there's no reason why you can't go out and do riding by yourself on your motorcycle, whether it be off-road riding or just crossing the country. Now, for me, if I waited to have somebody to ride with, then I would almost never ride. I've only ridden with a few people on some longer trips, and those people are currently out of state, so that makes it even harder. I don't have friends here where I live that ride motorcycles, so if I didn't ride by myself, it just wouldn't happen. So I'm not going to not go riding because I don't have somebody. I just keep it within a certain parameter of when I do ride. So stick around. I'll go through those things that you should give consideration to if you're going to be solo riding, solo adventure riding, and we'll go from there. The first thing that I recommend doing if you're going to be riding by yourself is let someone know where you're going, how long you're going to be there, roughly your route, and when you expect to be home. That way, if you have some sort of mechanical breakdown, something happens and you don't make it back in time, they have an idea of where to look for you or to call, or you can give them directions on where to come pick you up if you've had a problem and you need your bike picked up or something like that. So the first thing to do if you're going to do solo adventure riding is let someone know where you're going to be. When I'm riding by myself, I make sure I stay well within my riding capabilities. I don't push the limits on speed, and I try not to push the limits on technical terrain that I'm going to be riding. So for me, I try to stick between that 60% and 70% of my abilities. That way there's some margin of error. And that way I also know that I'm not pushing it to a point where I could end up having an accident either by going way too fast or getting into a technical terrain and getting stuck there and maybe not being able to get my bike picked up or put away. Now, do I always do that? No. I have a hard time making good decisions. As you can see from, if you follow my channel at all, I lack good judgment, but my recommendation is to ride at those lower thresholds so that you have that margin in the event you do get yourself into a position you can get out, so that you're trying to stay in a relaxed, comfortable point of riding so that you're not stressed and you can enjoy the ride and not worry about pushing those limits and increasing that risk. So by riding in that 60 to 70% capability, you keep that risk down, you get to enjoy the ride and continue the ride. So one of the things that I try to do when I go ride is I ride for tomorrow. I try never to push myself so much today that something's going to happen and I don't get to ride tomorrow. That still means I enjoy today, but I may turn around if I need to. If the terrain is getting to be a little too difficult, I'll turn around and just go ride something else to know that I get to ride again tomorrow, and I'm not risking putting I'm not putting my ride tomorrow at risk by trying to ride over my head. So my recommendation, ride at the 60 to 70% of your capability, and that way you get to ride tomorrow and you're not taking excessive risks. When I'm planning one of my rides, one of the things I look for is areas that look like they're going to be more well used. And the reason for that is if I have a breakdown on the bike, if something happens, there will be people coming by at some point in time. I can get help if I need it. I don't carry a spot tracker. I don't carry an inReach. Those would be useful if you are going to go into those really remote areas. But when I'm riding by myself, I try to stay where there will be traffic just for those purposes. Tip, if you're going to be riding by yourself frequently, is go to places that you've been to before. Maybe you've ridden 50 or 60% of that before, and you just explore small areas to try to widen the range of the area that you're familiar with. And that way, you know what you're getting into up to that point. You know whether or not it's within your capabilities, and then you can start exploring areas where you've gone. That way, you're not extending yourself, and you're always at a point where you can go back and ride stuff that you're comfortable with. I think a really important thing is to have good judgment, which, like I've said before, I don't always have good judgment, but don't be afraid to turn around. If it's looking really rough, if you feel like you're getting yourself into a difficult situation, if you're feeling like you might get to a point where you may get to a point of no return and you don't want to be there, turn around. You have nothing to prove when you're out riding, especially by yourself. Nobody's watching you. No one's seeing whether or not you clear a certain section of baby heads or a steep hill climb or ledges or anything else like that. So if you're getting to that point where you're really pushing yourself, turn around. It's not that big a deal. You can enjoy the ride. You won't have that anxiety built up in you. And try it again another time, but bring somebody with you. So that is probably one of the biggest tips I have, is don't be afraid to turn around if you're adventure riding by yourself. If you go out riding by yourself, I cannot emphasize enough, make sure you take enough water with you. If for any of you that are familiar with Sterling Noreen and his channel Motorcycle Adventures, he got himself into a situation where he ran out of water. So I carry close to a gallon of water with me every single day, and that includes even doing day rides. I carry close to that much because you just never know. And I also carry some extra food with me, and I take enough stuff with me even on day rides that if I had to stay out overnight, not comfortably, but that I have enough food and water. Maybe not a shelter, I've got my gear on, I can lay down just about anywhere in my gear, but I want that food and especially that water because of the dangers that go into running out of water. So if you are out day riding or doing your trips, make sure you have enough water. And that includes not just solo riding, but even if you're riding with other people, make sure everybody has enough water. That is the one thing that will get you into really, really big trouble. So make sure you do that. If you are planning to do a lot of solo adventure riding, the one thing I recommend is get yourself the lightest bike that you feel comfortable riding, that fits your needs, which is one of the reasons why I'm on a 390 Adventure now and not riding the big 1200GS, because it's a little bit more nimble. It's easier for me to turn around just about anywhere, and if I drop it, it's much easier to pick up than the big heavy bikes. So that's something else you should consider if you're going to do a lot of solo adventure riding. The last thing that I'm going to say is, if you're going to be solo riding, you need to know how to do the basic repairs. If you have tubes in your wheels, your tires, you need to be able to replace a tube by yourself. If you've got tubeless, you better be able to know how to put a plug in and plug it. And I even carry a tube with me when I have tubeless, just in case something goes terribly wrong. I rip a hole in a tire and there's no way you can plug it. So if you're going to be riding by yourself, you have to be able to do that. I think that's just a basic thing, but I've ran into people that don't carry enough stuff to fix their tires. So make sure you carry a small toolkit with you in the eventuality that something happens and you need to be able to fix things. Thanks for watching. If you have any tips for riding solo that you want to share with people, leave that in the comments below. I think this is a sensitive topic for some people, but I know a lot of us out there do ride alone. There are some things that we should be doing when we go, and there's definitely some things that we shouldn't be doing, which hopefully I covered that in enough detail that if you're just getting into this, you'll have some ideas in your mind how you should go about riding by yourself and what you should consider doing. And for those of us that have been doing it for a long time, maybe reconsider what you've been doing if you've been putting yourself at excessive risk. Get out, do some riding. Thanks for watching, and I will see you out there.